Welcome back. Well, focusing on the developments with the Senate. Of course, you know there are many. First, they had the screening. There were supposed to be 3. It turned out there was 2. They were supposed to sit today. Turns out it's now going to be tomorrow. And then, remember, the Court of Appeal was supposed to rule the last time out, and then they adjourned indefinitely. But this morning, the Senate President will be going with some senators and members of the House of Representatives to the Code of Conduct matter, which is also happening today. So a lot going on. But in the meantime, there's still reactions about the ministerial screening as well as its attendant effect. We're joined this morning from Abuja. Ikenga joins us this morning. Thank you for joining us. About the APC, well, first of all, are you still a member of the APC?
With my election as the president of the National Youth Council, I'm no longer participating.
Okay, so, well, about this, Senate screening and all this development, because at least you're also a lawyer, you heard about the rulings and the judgments. What's your impression about how this is turning out at the, eventually, or so far, I should say?
I'm a very person. This whole turning ridiculous in this sense that things that can be dealt with decisively are being prolonged. Like a day before yesterday, at the Court of Appeal, Nigerian people had expected that the Justice of the Court of Appeal would have given their judgment, because they said 2 p.m. of that day, and the whole nation was waiting to see the judgment. And why people are so particular about that judgment is this. There are issues of jurisdictions and the competence of the charge that was raised. These go to the very foundation of that trial. Now, surprisingly, some 30 minutes or thereabout to the process, they said they have arrested the judgment basically for until the time they will let the people know. Here now, you will remember the issues that came up at the Federal High Court, which was very contentious, where the tribunal said they will still go ahead because they said they had coordinated jurisdiction with the Federal High Court. If the Appeal Court has delivered this judgment, it would have helped in settling this in as the trial regimes today. Now, if the trial regime today, and there is a judgment that have been written and kept somewhere, what that means is that by the time you are done with what you're doing at the Code of Conduct Tribunal, the judgment of the Appeal Court will definitely end up making that exercise invalid, assuming it goes the other way. But if they had allowed this judgment to be delivered, it would have helped the people at the Code of Conduct Tribunal. And going by the principle of law, in all honesty, what we will expect, Nigerian people will expect at the Code of Conduct Tribunal, it doesn't matter what are the issues right now. But since there is a judgment pending at the Court of Appeal, what the tribunal is expected to do by principle of law and judicial precedent is to step down its proceeding. It has basically nothing to do with Saraki or the prosecution or so on and so forth, because the judgment of the Appeal Court will go a long way in giving us the foundation for this trial. And you can see that this whole thing is affecting the business of the parliament. When the Senate President is facing a trial, definitely it's like the institution of the parliament is definitely going to be distracted. Now, the screening, whether you like it or not, has to be stepped down, because most senators would like to show solidarity with the President of the Senate. So you can see that it's already affecting the business of the parliament. And the people at the Court of Appeal know this. The people at the Code of Conduct Tribunal know this. So if they had given this judgment, and then they come to Code of Conduct Tribunal today, we would have gotten a direction of how this trial is going to go. And I need you to also remember that this issue of jurisdiction can be raised at any point in time in trial. And one of those issues which I would like Nigerians to appreciate is this issue of composition. The Constitution talks about there shall be a Code of Conduct Tribunal that shall be composed of a chairman and 2 members. And then when you use Interpretation Act to define the quorum for their sitting, you can say 2 out of that 3 can sit. But I'm being informed that at this particular moment, the tribunal is composed of 2 members, the chairman, Omar Danladi, and 1 other member. So if they are composed of 2 people, then you can say in law they are not properly constituted, because they require 3 for them not to say 2 out of that 3 can sit. But right now it is 2/2 that is sitting at that tribunal.
All right. We'll come back to that in a minute. But I just want to draw you back to this ministerial screening. Yesterday, Senator Dino Melaye, the spokesman of the Senate, did say, well, they had to slow down, in his words, because of the outcry from the people. They had to listen to what the people are saying, that they were rushing the screening. Was your group one of those who said, no, senators, slow down?
Well, I raised the issue of slow down. I wanted I didn't buy the idea of taking 10 people in a day for such a serious business. And also, I think part of the problem has to do from the side of the presidency over time. It's not just Mohammed, but other presidents that before him. That it is high time you send this list of ministers with their portfolio. When you say somebody is going to be in petroleum industry, it will help senators to ask the person to know about his expertise in the oil and gas industry and the programs the person is going to carry out. But when you ask this general question, you can't exhaust this general question. So how do you even know where the person is going to end up? So most countries that you see practicing party democracy, they send this list with the position the person is going to occupy. And I love what they did yesterday. It was detailed when Shitu was on. It was detailed. A lot of questions was asked, especially his involvement on the issue of incitement of violence or crisis in Ibadan then. So I think if they take 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4 in a day, but let's see, since they don't have a portfolio, so that all sorts of questions can be asked. It's a matter of, but also, you need to understand that this process is constitutional. It has a time frame. The constitution is saying that if at the end of 21 working days, these ministers are not screened, they automatically become ministers. That is equally one of the issues that is worrying me, Rotimi Amechi's case. You know, all these ethics committees submit report and don't submit report. Amechi have few days to become a minister by force of law. So I hope the ethics committee headed by Sam Dadi is aware of this. You got to do this, because if you don't do it, it's embarrassing that he becomes a minister by force of law, because 21 working days, it remains like 7 days or so for him to automatically emerge as a minister without senator screening and confirmation. So that's why maybe that's why the senators are trying to go about this process in an expeditious way to make sure that these things are done, and then the president can be able to take off with the business of full governance.
Why do you think that the screening of a former governor of Rivers State, Rotimi Amechi, is so political?
Yeah, I think it's been politicized, in the sense that, first of all, I want you to know that this issue of white paper, indictment issues, these are issues that at a particular point shook the foundations of Nigerian democracy. When the PTDF committee and administrative panel headed by El-Rufai and their group indicted Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, that matter was tested through the crucible of the judicial process up to Supreme Court. And you remember the ridiculous one that was done in Abia State, where the government of the head of Ojikalo indicted Yaradua, indicted Buhari, indicted the wife, the daughter of Obasanjo. At the end of the day, the Supreme Court said, unless somebody is convicted by a competent court of law, all these things amount to nothing. But you see a situation whereby you have seen Governor Nelson Wike come up with a white paper. You have seen another white paper coming up from Imo State against the Ministerial Nominee, Professor Anwoka. These issues of white paper, I think they have been dealt with by the Supreme Court. We should not distract the nation with those white paper issues. Should be thrown into the dustbin. Unless there is a competent judgment, and if there's no competent judgment, then go ahead and do the business of the parliament and get these people screened. I believe that we must all play by the law at all times. And anything that has been decided by the law, you must, in whatever you are doing, make sure you follow that process. So this issue of indictment, code of conduct, indictment and white paper, they should be dealt with. Even at the level of the code of conduct as well. Section 3D have been decided by the same code of conduct. No, and that matter has not been challenged.
Sorry to interrupt you.